We're back. You're watching tastylive. This is Trading Trends Live, and we're back for round three with Helene Meisler. Helene, good to see you again.
Good morning. How are you?
It's going well. Today's a really interesting day in the market. It's a great day to have you on because we're coming on the heels of two major events, at least from the technical world's perspective, a big volume spike in SMH, and of course, the triple Qs falling back to a major trend line. But the path forward right here isn't really straightforward, right? The indexes aren't in a free fall. The internals, they're getting messier. Put-call ratios are jumping up and down. We're seeing more hedging activity. Helene, I think we could just start with sentiment here because that seems to be your wheelhouse, and quite frankly, it's the conversation I enjoy most with you. You've been watching these put-call ratios closely for so long, and the message seems to have changed. Earlier this year, investors were a bit too complacent, and now we're seeing a little bit more hedging, more put activity. So when you're looking across your put-call ratios today, what are they actually saying? Healthy skepticism, rising fear, or still not enough panic?
I'm going to say there's certainly the put-call ratios are no longer complacent. They are showing some skepticism. What they're not showing is panic. Panic would be, readings consistently over 1.0, and we're just not getting that. We're getting a lot of readings sort of consistently in the low 90s, which just tells me people are anxious. But I will tell you the call put ratio. So that's over on the ISE, and it's mostly retail traders. And last week, for the first time, they bought more puts than calls, which is unusual for them. So there's a little anxiety there as well. And I look at a 5-day moving average line of that, and that's down where typically we've gotten lows in the market, oddly enough. So, 5 days is a very short period of time. But basically, let's just say I don't think sentiment is complacent, certainly not when it comes to technology.
Well, let's go over to technology. The triple Q chart that you sent over may be one of the clearer pieces of price action test going on right now. It pulled back towards this rising trend line from the spring advance, but you also see this pullback we've had going since the start of May. It's reaching support, if you will. So when you're looking at the triple Qs right now, is this a support test? We've had some big volume. Have we witnessed any sort of capitulation?
Not capitulation. I wouldn't call that capitulation. What I call it is, maybe you got a little bit of a mini panic this morning. When everybody came in and saw that Korea was down 10% and the foreign markets were down, and then oh my God, now memory is awful again, and I think that's what we got. What I've been looking at is I've got several indicators, short-term indicators on Nasdaq that are very oversold this week. And so I've been looking for a low to give us a rally in that call it tech, the Qs, the SOX, whatever you want to call it, that whole group this week. I've been looking for that only because I've got so much that is heading towards towards oversold. And in addition to that, we had 342 stocks making new lows just a week ago, and we had 342 stocks making new lows on Nasdaq back in early June. And yesterday we only had 230. So we actually had some contracting new lows, stocks making new lows on Nasdaq yesterday, which I know that has nothing to do with the semis because they're in free fall and everybody hates them now. And, it's a momentum trade gone bad, but I'm sorry, it matters. And nothing goes down in a straight line, and they're due a rally.
Let's talk about the semis then, because, you're one of the people that I look at the end of every day because you put out these great market stats at the end of every session. You shared the volume chart on SMH yesterday. We can put that up on the screen. A big volume spike into weakness from a technician's perspective for the audience. It can also mean distribution, for selling, hedging, capitulation, or maybe even a sign that institutions are reducing their real exposure. But we see these volume spikes near tops or bottoms is the point. So what is the SMH volume profile right now telling you about the shape of this sell-off and where we are in that cycle?
Okay, so I'm a big fan of watching the volume in the Qs because when you get Q volume, call it, I used to say over 70 million shares, but it could be 90. But it's got to be high. I mean, the average volume in the Qs runs us, I don't know, lately around 30 million, 40 million. So if you get up over 70, you're almost doubling the volume on the day. And that tends to happen near lows. It's a get me out panicky type of move.
Sure.
And so I've been waiting for that, and we're just not getting it. And then yesterday, I'm like, oh my God, look at the spike in volume in the SMH. Maybe people are not panicking out of the Qs, but man, they're exiting quickly out of their semiconductor positions. And so I thought it was noteworthy enough to show. And I think it's important enough. And again, I think it's important enough that we can get a bounce in the semis. Certainly, all the people who were bullish on the semis a month ago now tell us energy is a better place to be. So,
right, yes, we've heard that they're recreating the S&P 500 through first principles, right? Got to take on energy exposure to balance out our tech exposure. So, I mean, like, is this just simply SMH getting oversold after a big runoff, or I mean, is the market giving us a clear sign that the leadership within semis has been broken?
well, the leadership in semis turned in June. We are 5 weeks into this, maybe almost 6 weeks into this. Go back and take a look. The SMH or the SOX, I like to use the SOX, peaked like the third week of June, had a little back off, came back, and for the first time made a lower high. That's important. When you finally make a lower high, that's not good. But then you have to make a lower low to confirm that it's really not good. And then we made a lower low. So, I'm fond of saying when it comes to sentiment, the bulls and the bears live next door to each other, and they have a fence between them. Okay? And the bulls will mosey over to the fence and take a look at the bears and see if they're having fun. And some people will jump the fence and become bears and and join the bears. But they don't all go en masse and jump. They sort of do it slowly, and then all at once. And I think what we're seeing this week is a big jump the fence. Like a lot of people have been creeping over, and I think a lot of the laggards jumped over. So in other words, I think you went from a lot of bulls, too many bulls in June, to fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer until yesterday you sort of jumped the fence. Is it going to be the low? I don't know.
That's kind of where I was going next, because it kind of feels like there's this clear line, in at least the way that I understand the way that you think. There's a difference between a bounce coming out of, say, oversold conditions that are bearish and a durable low that's predicated around panic. And you don't think that we're at that panic. So this almost shaping up, if we get a rally in semis and you're long it, nice, take it home, but then reconsider because it may just simply be a counter-trend bounce.
Right. I have my oversold condition in the semis should last at least a week. So I don't think that I'm looking at a day or two. I think I'm looking at something that gets some of those newfound bears to jump back over the fence, just to give you an idea. And then I'll have to see. What I always like to do is I like to see, first of all, can they rally? Can they get them green? I mean, all we've done is rally so far, and we can't even get green. NVIDIA got green. So let's just see if there's anything that gets us there. And then my expectation is that you'll start to get up towards resistance. And the question is do the sellers come out at a lower high, or do the buyers overwhelm the sellers? And I'm just not sure yet, because we didn't have a traditional whack in the overall market. Like we've only had it in the group. And so if we had a big whack in the market, put-call ratios rising to 110 on a regular basis, the VIX getting jumpy, all that sort of stuff, sort of hysteria, everybody selling everything all at once, you'd have a better shot at saying, okay, the semis, that's it, because they're the most oversold. But you don't have that. So all we have now is I'm looking for a bounce in the semis. I think it's tradable. And that's where I'm at.
Sure. I mean, I think that all makes sense, right? We would want to see a larger VIX jump. We'd want to see the put call ratio north of 1. We'd want to see the big downside volume in the indexes to kind of get to the place of panic. And just maybe there's some breadcrumbs there, but not a full meal just yet.
Yeah, well said. And, in other words, there's a place for them to hide. And you don't want people hiding. You want them panicking.
We want them panicking. All right. So we're looking at oversold rally or failed bounce. Maybe it's going to be, okay, we can get a little bit of an oversold rally here. Whether or not it's a durable low is another question. But I'm thinking about now the next month or so. We've had this great pleasure of having you on every 6 weeks thereabout. If we're looking to the end of the summer now, right, it's Labor Day. We're coming back online. We've made our way through maybe the August doldrums when vol tends to go up. What would be the greatest sign or the indications that we've made it through the summer and that the market has put in the foundation for a more durable bottom if panic doesn't arise?
Okay, if you don't get any panic, then you're going to have to test and retest the lows in the technology names. So that takes time, and I'm not sure that 4 weeks from now or 5 weeks from now is enough time, but I would have to see. If we go back in time to when software was having its collapse, and you just think about the collapse in software, we had a lot of tradable bounces along the way. We're still having tradable bounces along the way, and software collapsed in February.
Right.
And this is now almost August. And you just now, my contention on software was always that eventually you're going to start getting differentiation among the charts, and some are going to develop into nice spaces and some are not. Some are just going to be garbage. And so that's what we're seeing now is some of those software names are starting to get more interesting.
Yeah,
but do the charts all look the same?
No, they don't. No, you can't just look at IGV because it tells a totally different tale underneath. And like software's been so underloved. I know contrarians just say buy low, sell high. You should just honestly start to look in places where other people aren't looking. This past week, I've been getting long a bunch of the consumer staple names, and that kind of finally bore some fruit today with the moves in Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble thus far. But Helene, this has been a fascinating conversation as always. We're looking forward to having you back again sometime in the fall. Folks who are listening in, I'm sure you know her. She's Helene Meisler, Cargill, Goldman Sachs, now at TheStreet. She has a great Substack. You can follow her on Twitter at ChartFest1. Helene, always a pleasure.